Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. This is my summer series. We're going to be doing a series of short 10-minute or thereabouts videos looking at placements of planets in the 7th house. Now everybody's very intrigued by the 7th house because the 7th house correlates to other people and their role in our lives. It correlates to our marriage partners. It correlates to business partners. And when I say marriage partners, stepping back a little here, it correlates to people we commit to. So there's usually a written agreement or a contractual agreement, such as you buy a house together, you buy a car together, you open a bank account together, or you sign a marriage certificate together. These are the committed contractual agreements we see in the 7th house. So that is business partnerships, but it's also any committed type of personal relationships as well. Clients are also these contractual type of partnerships too. Someone pays you some money, they've therefore entered into a contract with you to provide a service as well. So these are the kind of realms governed by the 7th house, and of course they make a big difference and a big impact on how our lives unfold. So this summer, thanks for joining me, we're going to be exploring every Sunday for 10 minutes what it means to have one of these planets in the 7th house. So check out your chart. You can do so at astro.com, where you can bring up a chart, and in whole sign astrology you'll be looking for the house that sits exactly opposite your AC ascendant, and it will always have the DC point in it. The written letters DC will fall in your 7th house in whole sign astrology. So look for that DC, that's the descendant degree, and whatever sign that falls in is your 7th house in whole sign astrology. So let's get stuck into the biggie, Pluto in the 7th house. What does this mean if you've got it in your chart? Well, Pluto, like all the celestial planets, has a really strong shadow and light to it. Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, the celestial planets, their shadow and light sides are very, very powerful. So the shadow side of Pluto is possessiveness, obsession, jealousy, even violence and abuse can be seen with Pluto in the negative shadow side. It's also the karma of trauma and suffering. Now that's heavy duty stuff. Pluto is a heavy duty planet. That's the shadow side. The light side of Pluto is to be able to have a sense of personal power, to embrace our ability to control and having a sense of self-control. Pluto is transformation, regeneration, rebirth, emergence from the underworld. Pluto is to bring great wealth into our life, actually, because he's formerly the god of great wealth before he became god of the underworld. If you're familiar with ancient mythologies, Pluto is the brother of Jupiter, who overthrew his father Saturn, and Pluto was given dominion of the underworld. But prior to that, he was the god of great wealth. So there is this energy of phenomenal wealth and intensity of wealth with Pluto. So these are the lighter, if you want to call them lighter, the word light and Pluto just don't seem to go hand in hand at all. But it's the more positive aspects of Pluto energy. And Pluto is the ego smasher. He is here to destroy any ego that we have, and he will do so through whatever means possible, hopefully through kindness, but not always the case, in order to help us up level. And if you think about the images that were captured in the 2015 flyby of Pluto, they showed an ancient volcanic eruption of a heart in the shape of a heart on the side of Pluto. And of course, I'm a great believer in as above, so below. Here is the image of love on the side of Pluto's flanks. And to me, that says that the purpose of Pluto, even though it feels like hell sometimes when Pluto's doing stuff in our lives, the purpose of Pluto is love, is to uplift us in the long run and help us to karmically transform our wounds and our traumas in some way, even though a lot of the time Pluto's the inflictor of wounds and traumas. There is love at the basis of what Pluto tries to do through smashing our ego, through helping us to transform our traumas and sufferings. In fact, Pluto rules therapy and healing through therapy, through shining a torch into our subconscious and our psyche and getting rid of the cobwebs and the difficult chunky gunk that's down in our psyche. So I hope that all makes sense. To sum Pluto up in a nutshell is not an easy task. But when we have Pluto in the 7th house, what can this mean? Well, obviously at a lower level, it can mean that we're going to attract possessive, jealous, obsessive partners. And this is a placement where we can actually have trust issues in our relationships when Pluto is in the 7th house. So this is because in past lives, Pluto here says we've had trauma in relationship in the past. And as such, we have an issue trusting people. We have an issue with being able to feel safe in relationships. So we tend to control them. We tend to dominate and make sure it goes our way. And because we have this problem with trusting due to past life trauma that we've experienced. Pluto in the 7th house indicates that. So either we can attract this into our lives, the partners we bring in are obsessive and dominating and controlling, or we can be that way with our partners. We can be the ones obsessing. We can be the ones stalking on Facebook and so on when we have Pluto in the 7th house. So it's really important to compromise. Really, really important to compromise rather than acting suspiciously towards your partners if you want to really alleviate this tendency towards obsession. It can be a very invasive energy, Pluto in the 7th house, where you're constantly checking your partner's emails or following them to work to make sure that they don't, stop in at the local cafe and talk to that really cute barista or something, that kind of nutty, obsessive behavior. Now, the higher manifestations of Pluto energy in the 7th house is that Pluto can teach you to take your personal power back. This Plutonian style relationships can be the catalyst for you to learn to stand up for yourself, to say no more, enough. I am in my own power here and I will not be trodden on. I will not be a doormat. I will not have your feet wiped on me any longer in relationship. It's teaching you to stand up, take control and take power back. So Pluto can empower us, but often it does that through putting us through traumatic circumstances where we can't take any more and we're like, enough! And now I'm taking my power back. That's just how Pluto often plays the game. Pluto in the 7th house can indicate power struggles with partners where, you are fighting for control and dominance in the relationship. Not always healthy, but knowledge is power. When you know this is the case, you've got Pluto in the 7th house and this is it's something that crops up for you, you'll be like, aha, Pluto in the 7th house, power and control issues. Okay, I'm stepping back. I'm taking my power back here. I'm not going to play this game anymore. You can act with more wisdom and knowledge when you realize where it's coming from. The good thing about Pluto in the 7th house is that sex is amazing because Pluto is intensity, and he's also is connected with sex. He rules, in a modern sense, rules the 8th house of sexuality and our sexual expression. So tantric sex, sex that is just beyond the norm, it can be experienced when you have Pluto in the 7th house. So this is positive. This can be fabulous. You can also have really big transformations when you have Pluto in the 7th house, and the transformations will come through relationships and partnerships. This can be business partnerships, this can be connection with your audience or your clients as well, but more than ever it's through the committed life partners. That's where you will learn the most, it's where you will transform the most, so your partners can really regenerate you, reinvigorate you. And in fact, even after a partnership falls apart, you will have great regenerative capacity yourself to return to relationship in a healthy way with Pluto in the 7th house, because Pluto is to regenerate and be reborn, which is great. Part of that regeneration indicates that the biggest healing, the biggest therapy in life can actually come through relationships. It's through partnership and through relationship that you can heal these past life traumatic wounds. Even though there's trust issues to begin with about heading into relationship and connecting and partnering with someone, when you do, that's where you can find the most healing comes, the most transformation and restoration occurs for you. Now, Pluto in the 7th house can indicate the nature of your partner. So they might be a very dominating person. They might be obsessive. They might be controlling. They might be transformative for you. They might regenerate, the cause of regeneration for you. But at a more practical level, it can also indicate what this person will do for a living. They might be a surgeon. Surgeons are ruled by Pluto. They might be work in the ER department of the hospital, dealing with crisis. Any type of crisis manager would be a Plutonian style person. Psychologists are very Plutonian type people usually. Maybe you might marry someone who handles other people's money, maybe a stockbroker or a financial advisor. There might even be a spy, someone who's interested in the criminal mind and criminal psychology even. Other things that Pluto rules is anything to do with excretion. So you might marry a plumber, you might marry the person who drives the local garbage truck, you might marry someone who's an undertaker who deals with death and that type of mortician kind of work. The difficult aspects to Pluto might indicate that you would partner with somebody who's a criminal, somebody who's abusive, somebody who is controlling in a very psychologically harmful way. So just watch out for that. Watch out for the hard aspects to Pluto in the 7th house, which can mean a lot more challenges regarding the types of people that you partner and connect with. In the Campanus system, my Pluto falls in the 7th house, and it has instigated in me a bit of trust issues, I've got to say. But usually I don't work with the Campanus division system. I use whole sign astrology, which seems to match up better. However, in that instance, I have noticed that trust issues are a thing, and Pluto is in the 7th house in that system as well. So thanks for joining me for a peek at Pluto in the 7th house. We've got 2 more to go in this series, actually. I thought last week I was winding things up, but I've recalled that I need to speak about Rahu and Ketu, which we will do over the next 2 weeks. So do join me for that. I'll catch you then.